Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Word Balloon,
Howdy.
the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Hey, Mitch. How are you?
Good.
Mitch Gerads, everybody. Doc Shaner joining us as well. Good to see you, Doc.
Hey, bud.
And we're going to do a nice little conversation about the book that these guys are just knocking it out of the park with, if you'll pardon my dangling participle. And that's Strange Adventures. Adam Strange and Mr. Terrific. So many questions after two issues. All good ones. And honestly, it's an intriguing story, so beautifully drawn. And honestly, guys, I can't tell you enough how much I'm enjoying this story.
Well, thank you. Evan can answer all your questions.
Yeah.
and joining us now, he's we're gonna pop him into the screen right now. The writer of Strange Adventures, our returning champion, Tom King. Good to see you, Tom.
You haven't seen me in so long, John. Has the world changed?
Like, Tom is going to shun me now for like 90 days at least because, like, all right, enough. Seriously, I'm sick of talking to you.
Never. I just have nothing else. I have no more stories. My life is bare. I am the most boring person on Word Balloon right now.
This is not true. Even Evan was saying before we started and stuff that he was listening to our conversation from Monday. Thank you, everyone. Great response from the audience. Genuinely appreciated. I'm a little late in posting. Well, I've posted Tom's interview. Last night I had Brian Hill on the show. And, God, I love Brian. Brian's such a smart guy. And always a pleasure talking to him. Yeah. So I haven't put that audio up yet, but I will after this conversation. So, but anyway, as I was just telling Mitch and Doc, thank you, boys, for a great story so far. Sprite.
Hey,
nice.
That's Diet Sprite, motherfucker.
All right,
Sorry.
I got water. All right, what are Doc and Mitch drinking?
I have some Peerless single barrel bourbon.
Lovely. Outstanding. Doc?
It's whiskey. I don't know what it is beyond that.
There you go.
Brown water.
My dad was a Scotch drinker, and he owned a bar for 30 years, and his favorite was like a total call Scotch, Grant's. And he was cheap as hell, but he's like, this is smooth. So he was very happy. People would buy him real high-end Scotch. He's like, yeah, that's nice, but seriously, just like stock me up with Grant's, and I'm a happy man. So not even Cuddy Sark. I was very proud of my father. So too funny. So what do we imagine Adam Strange is drinking these days, boys? Other than Kool-Aid.
Well, not to give spoilers.
Oh, yeah, really? Part of the story.
He's drinking all the time in these issues. I got him. That guy's got an alcohol problem. He's heavily drinking.
I have to admit, I normally don't do the drink call on my podcast, and I roll my eyes sometimes. But everyone's like showing their drinks, so it's like, come on, give me a break. So, but yeah, mine is just filtered water. You know, I'm that's like the one thing that stuck with Weight Watchers was like being able to like break the pop habit and just really to quench my thirst. It's got to be water. So.
Tom is literally like one of the only people I know who still drinks pop.
First of all, pop is ridiculous.
Soda, excuse
me.
What do you call it?
I'm the only person who drinks soda. I drink so much soda. I think I have bottles of.
Looking around looks a lot.
And today with my office, I clean my office. Usually there'd be stacks of soda everywhere. Yeah, that's what I don't smoke, but I drink. So I gave up Diet Pepsi. That was my big health thing a few years ago. So instead I sucked down clear soda, which I have no idea if that's an improvement at all. Diet Sprite is laced with anthrax. Good. That's what makes it so tasty.
Hey, Jake.
Building up that immunity.
He saw you. He saw all three of you at a panel during C2E2. Had a great time. Mitch and Evan, you both gave me an impromptu portfolio review. I can't thank you enough for your direction and encouragement. That's lovely.
Oh, they sometimes give me impromptu portfolio reviews, which I resent. Wait, did you see my shirt?
What do you got? Oh, nice.
Ooh.
Am I on brand?
Yeah.
Beautiful, man. Who made those?
Adventures. I believe it's a Canadian comic book store called Strange Adventures.
Yeah. Oh, every time I search Strange Adventures, I have to cycle through 300 posts by them.
Yeah, I ordered some comic books for them, not realizing they were in Canada, and so all the comics would cost 3 times as much.
Wow.
I think that was Darwin's shop, maybe.
Oh, really? That was where
or at least he was closely associated with it, I think.
They were super nice. They sent me a shirt and like a bunch of Canadian comics, which I don't read French, so I threw those out. So I'm cracking stupid Canadian jokes. It must be a fantastic
I
podcast.
remember Captain Canuck from the 80s. That was a fine comic book.
Revived. Tom Fowler did some Captain Canuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really should be Fowler's nickname. You're right about that. I have speaking of C2E2, I've got this great group shot that we all took at Miller's Pub.
Oh,
That was a fun night.
It really was. So there's Cully Hamner all the way on the left, and then Doc, Mitch, back when Mitch even had a bigger beard, Tom, myself, my buddy Jeff Quarter, and Jeff still raves about that night and really enjoyed himself. I know that for a fact. So,
we had fun. That was second to last restaurant I ever went to. I figured there was one more besides that, but I wish that was the last.
Fashioned.
I think that was the last restaurant I went to. I've had carry out, but yeah, I think that's the last one I sat down on.
And we're never going back. It's all coming back hard.
And if you can't tell the decor, I love the decor because seriously, as I told the guys, it's like walking into The Irishman with all the great oil paintings and everything and the old decor. I love that place. I really do. I miss it. So, all right, enough sad stuff. Mitch, man, I'll tell you, when you went clean shaven, as I'm sure many of us said, you can cosplay Carl Urban very comfortably.
The very handsome.
Now you kind of look like Tim Seeley's older brother.
I always say I'm cosplaying as Ben Percy. I'm cosplaying as Ben Percy.
Jeez. Well, anyway, let's see here because everyone's got silly talk, which I'm all for. That's fine, boys and girls that are chiming in.
Yeah,
but okay. Here's a good Comics Matter pod question from Mitch and Doc. Is there one character left that you guys want to draw a series of? Another dangling participle.
I will take notes for pitches.
I've got one that I've only convinced myself of fairly recently. And I told Tom about this. Is Dr. Fate.
That'd be great.
I think there'd be a crazy, awesome Dr. Fate story in there.
Tom's giving us the thumbs down. Why?
I don't like magic characters. I don't understand them. There's no barriers. There's no other powers. Dr. Fate's an Egyptian dude. I don't even know if I can write an Egyptian dude.
Well,
there's lots of. I don't know.
Unless it's a a flashback and it's Ken Nelson tooling around the East. But I don't know if that's okay or not.
But it's mostly the magic thing. It's the idea of Doctor Strange, I don't know what their powers are. I don't understand it. They can just do whatever they want, right? There's no.
You gotta go full Eldritch horror, just full Eldritch horror with it.
What's Eldritch horror? I don't read books. I write comics for a living. Eldritch horror.
Interesting. And here, Doc, where's as Greg McKeon asks, where's that Shaner demon book?
It happened a few years ago.
You missed that.
Outstanding. That's excellent, man. Well, guys, honestly,
Wait, Doc didn't answer the question. I want to hear his series.
Yeah, Doc.
It's Demon I want to do something with Wonder Woman. I'd like to do some kind of long form Wonder Woman thing.
See, that's a good idea.
That's cool. Although again, kind of
you have a shirt, Mitch. Whatever.
You know what I've been digging? I've been the Wonder Woman, the Sikowski fashion model or fashion designer Wonder Woman. I like that design.
Era?
The mod era. I like mod Wonder Woman.
Depowered Wonder Woman.
I love that
with
stuff. When I got into comics, everybody was bagging on that, and I couldn't understand why, because I dug that suit.
Yeah, she looks cool. Oh wait, no, are you talking about the one with the jacket or the one with the old 70s one?
I don't know. Are they the same thing?
I'm assuming the 70s one that Denny O'Neil wrote and Sikowski drew. And, I actually got to meet Gloria Steinem back in 2006 because, of course, that run is made famous by her editorial that was the cover of Ms. Magazine. And basically the comment was, oh, great, thanks. Thanks for depowering Wonder Woman, our greatest, most powerful superheroine. And Denny...
Hey, at least they assigned it to a male writer and a male artist.
Exactly. And Denny copped to it, and he's like, God, we thought we were doing something cool and making her more relevant. And his, model for it all was Diana Rigg, in the British spy show The Avengers. And I went and I mean, again, ignorance on my part, but I went. Steinem was incredible, and she's at New York Comic Con, and I'm like, I go, I said, I understand where you're totally coming from on that. I go, I don't know if you've heard, but people like Denny O'Neil has since said sorry, and his intent was ... And she looked at me. She said, "Well, he was wrong." I'm like, okay. I'm like, "Yes, ma'am. Pleasure to meet you. Fantastic. You're a legend. It's my pleasure." So it was very funny. So hey, Brock Sager, how is it working together on this book? I do love the Twitter banner between all of you like brothers.
Just
They barely tell it.
It's horrible. It's a terrible. It's the worst working experience I've had since the last time I worked with either of these people.
In my precious off time, I'm sitting here talking to them.
Sorry, man. I know it's my fault. That's fair. Very fair.
Way to force this upon us.
Usually I talk to them and look at their stupid faces. Now they're like, ugh.
Was there ever? I mean, I'm assuming obviously the idea started with Tom, and Tom, I'll ask you, was if it didn't?
It was Mitch's idea.
It was Mitch's idea. Pardon me. All right. And Mitch, were you thinking two-hander as far as the art goes when you?
No. So like, Tom, and we were like towards the end of Mr. Miracle, and we were talking about what we want to do next, and kind of looking at my bookshelf, and I saw the big Adam Strange book there, and I was like, "What about Adam Strange? That'd be cool." And that's kind of where we settled on that night. And then brought Tom back to his hotel room, and then the next morning in the car he like pitched me the entire series, and he's like, wait, the best part is we get someone else to draw it. I'm like,
Mitch is terrible to work with. That was the best idea I had. And I covered that earlier in the conversation.
So was Evan always like, your thought? Was there anyone else?
He was brought up in that same breath. Like,
that's cool. And it wasn't cool right away, Evan, or what'd you think?
I mean,
the eye roll says it all. Evan.
Well, you know what? I've said elsewhere, like Adam Strange is nowhere close to on my radar as a favorite character. And when Mitch said it'll be Adam Strange, I was like, all right, man.
I'm sorry.
Sure.
Nobody told me.
I guess. But no, the idea of working with the two of them was obviously the big draw for me. And also working on something longer form, and just knowing where I'd be for the better part of the year was the biggest plus for me.
In the second half of the series, it becomes a Lobo book. That's the big twist.
Yeah.
Do you really want a Lobo book eventually, Doctor? At the point?
I was joking about it. Now it's the
question.
only thing I want is Lobo to just ride through one panel and be like, "Hey, folks, it's me, Lobo."
I just did 50 pages of Space Hippie. Be happy.
Interesting. All right. Very cool. That's interesting though, Evan, because I would think that Silver Age aesthetic of Adam Strange's uniform might be appealing to you, given how great you draw Silver Age heroes, and or at least heroes the way that great look, that classic look.
He was like mad when I suggested we bring back the old look.
That's part of why I don't like Adam Strange. I never liked that costume.
Wow,
it's a terrible costume. I think I am totally on board. I think I've taken off his shirt in every single issue.
Well, I should have.
To be fair, you do that with everyone.
I should have grabbed that cover. Absolutely, man. That's hilarious. I had the half and half cover because I don't know if that was a DC poster or whatever.
The half and half was the C2E2 exclusive.
Oh, there you go. Okay, cool. That's beautiful, man. No, I loved it. So are there again, in doing the research for the story, all of you, was there a particular Adam Strange story that keyed you guys in?
I know Tom brought it up the other night, but yeah,
there you go. Fantastic. Yep, Tom showed his on Monday.
Oh, look at this!
Nice.
I paid for the originals, motherfuckers. I like these slackers. Which Alana is the true Alana? You'll never know.
Seems cost ineffective, Tom.
When you guys announced the book, honestly, I went on eBay and bought several Mystery in Space reader copies and stuff because I love. Again, I'm a sucker for that. Same thing with like the Legion, the way the Legion looked in the 50s and 60s, and the upside down rocket ship for their clubhouse. I love all that stuff, you know.
Man, these covers are all awesome, and the stories are so terrible.
Yeah, unfortunately. No, you're right. They're simple. They're very simple.
They're very simple. Yeah. I mean, the art's beautiful. I mean, Cart's Carmine with, it's got a beautiful, clean Carmine art when he was in the very clean phase. It's gorgeous. Murphy Anderson does a lot of things on that sort of thing. So yeah, the art's beautiful, but the stories they're terrible. I think Doc has probably done the most research. I read probably like 30 of the old issues. I didn't read them all. I think it's probably like 60 altogether or something. But Doc keeps being like, "Hey, did you notice this from this issue and this from this issue?" You're the one who's like deep into it.
I lost a couple of weeks on that.
This is for the fan that just posted that. This is the Darwin Cook cover.
Oh, I said it was
this
my
is me.
Oh, embarrassed myself. You said it was Cook, John.
I blew it. All right, fair enough.
No, you didn't know I blew it. You got it right.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was. I thought Doc did it. Absolutely. What was I going to ask? You know, I'll tell you one story of Strange's that I loved was the Swamp Thing story, where Swamp Thing was on Ron and everything that happened, and also, and I see echoes of that in this story, Tom. In terms of we really don't know what's going on in Adam's head. It's too early, but it just seems like I loved like his little moment. Was he at the Washington Monument or Lincoln? Where he was kind of Lincoln, and he was just pew pew pew, and it just kind of reminded me of just that one line that Alan Moore gave him about just monsters, I hate them, and it's just that kind of meat and potatoes attitude towards aliens and everything, and not really understanding what he was doing.
Yeah, so for people who don't know, Alan Moore did a 2-issue sequence with there's like 11 issues where Swamp Thing went in space and he was sort of ejected from the planet after he did because Gotham City turned Gotham City into a really bad place, and as a punishment they ejected him from the planet. And then he went wandering from planet to planet, each one being more trippy as Alan got higher and higher. But he did a stop for 2 days on for 2 issues on Ren. Actually, I have a page of it up there, beautiful Steve Bissette page, and it's a great story, and because like the Hawks are in it. And the Hawks are they represent sort of almost like a fascist kind of course, there's Alan Morris is a fascist element. It's a fascist element coming to Rand, but it's not clear that Rand is not fascist. So it's kind of like you don't know which side to root for. Yeah, and it's very cool. But my favorite sequence of that is it begins with like a Zeta beam, and the Zeta beams make no sense. And it like always hits in South America somehow, but it's in Australia. And he goes to find it. Usually it's in a really rural place, but he goes and they built a mall in the middle of this rural place. And he runs into the mall, and he's got to find that one position to go, and it's the one, and it happens to be on the it's someone on the toilet, but there's someone already there, so he has to yank them off the toilet. He's like, "What the hell?" And he sits down, and a beam hits him, and he disappears.
I love that. I also love in that same story regarding where Swamp Thing goes, other planets and stuff, that he stumbles on Solomon Grundy, which is a callback to a '60s showcase story. With, by the way, Dr. Fate and Hourman, and Green Lantern. Alan Scott shows up at the end, and they use the combination of Green Lantern's power ring and Dr. Fate's magic to trap this version of Solomon Grundy on this alien moon or world or whatever. And so he still exists there and stuff. And Swamp Thing kind of runs into him. And I remember because it was like reprinted in like a Justice League 100-page spectacular in the 70s. And I'm just like, oh my God, I just read that story. Or relatively speaking, and it was still in my head. I'm like, that's amazing, and that's classic Alan Moore. So
we get to do some of that in Strange Adventures. Like I was just talking about the space hippie, but it was this Doc was like, have you noticed like in this issue, like there's this whole other planet next to Rand called Andor Rand, which has this population of people that use like a rainbow torture device, and he's like, I want to use that. So yeah, we're getting to do some of that like super obscure taking. And then in a modern context, making that cool and trippy and awesome.
And I'm drawing people walking in the snow.
Yeah. Or standing in the snow. There is variation.
That's awesome. Liz Galati has a question for all of you. Do you find the Silver Age sci-fi heroic mortal has something? Oh, wait a minute. Do you find the Silver Age sci-fi heroic mortal has something different to say about American culture than the Golden Age, the invulnerable gods of Olympus JLA thing? And what is your character preference, vulnerable or invulnerable? That's a good essay question.
I do think it has something different to say. In historical terms, Adam Strange is a post Comics Code hero and a pre-Marvel hero, so 1960.
Right. Yep.
And in that time, you had a bunch of mostly Jewish creators who had been told that their art form was crap and was haunting the world, and basically that they were like worse than pornographers is the way they were all described. Like Stan Lee wouldn't tell his wife's friends what he did for a living.
Yep.
And it was literally, if you said to someone, I work on comics, it would be the equivalent of today being like, I work on the Trump campaign. It's like something you couldn't tell people. And so Adam Strange was created in that environment. So he's created in this way that he's just boringly, generically perfect, He's like, he's the male equivalent of Donna Reed, just cookie cutter. So the 40s, those guys were weird and fucked up. And then when we got to the 60s, they were trippy and bizarre and they were trying things. But there was this moment where a lot of the core characters of DC Comics were confirmed, where guys were, and I legitimately think they were writing scared. They were like, I have to make this as cookie cutter as possible or I will lose my gig and I won't be able to feed my family.
I think you're right.
So I think that's what we're working with is that small window. And then, the Flash was created in that mold and Hawkman. And Aquaman was a little earlier, but he ended up in that mold. And so that's what we're playing with is this sort of concept of the really boring, neutral Christian white guy that these sort of city boys thought that the rest of the world wanted.
Interesting. Well, and don't forget Ramona Fradon for Aquaman. So even a city girl.
Yeah. And even a city girl. That's true.
I got to tell you, I guilty pleasure, probably because I really fell in love with DC as a very little kid. It was among the first books that I read. And I really reacted to Kurt Swan and Murphy Anderson and all those great kind of classic, clean artists and stuff. Ramona, certainly. Although Ramona got weird with Metamorpho.
Yeah, Ramona got
she was able to make the adjustment.
Ramona was married to the head of the New Yorker Cartoonist Society.
Really?
Yeah, so she was like all involved in New York politics and all sorts of things.
I blew it. I should have tried to interview her earlier, and I still suppose I can. She's God bless her. I don't know. I haven't seen her in a few years.
I talked to her at Baltimore last year or whenever.
And how was she?
Baltimore was. She was good. She was doing well. She did a sketch for me. It was nice.
You know what I got from her?
Sketch. She has like sketches she has out.
I got a 7x8 Namor from her.
Awesome.
And it was fantastic. And I'm like, you never drew him professionally, did you? She's like, nope, just Aquaman. I'm like, well, then I definitely want this. And I also bought a Metamorpho from her like 15 years ago. So
yeah, for 93, the girl, she can draw.
Amazing. Yeah, she's such a nice lady. Such a nice, very like mild-mannered lady and everything. So no, she's pretty cool. Hey, Cully's here.
Hey,
right, Cully. There you go.
Let's go get some steak.
All we need is Jeff Quarter, and we got all five of us again. This is great. So, unbelievable, man. Good to see you, Cull. And we'll talk soon. Cully came on. We did a big panel of me hating Star Trek.
Picard, right? Doesn't he like it?
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's okay. That's all right.
Me in the back with this.
Yeah. No, I literally.
I signal happy in the back. I'm not a smart person.
Cully was like, kind of like half and half. Things he liked, things he didn't like, and everything. But no, I purposely loaded the panel to be like 4-2, and only two of us not liking the new Star Trek, and the other four telling me why they like it. And I'm like, that's cool. I'm not here to change anybody's mind. I honestly want to know. So it was fun. But anyway, back to this stuff. Oh, here, I purchased a Golden Age Black Cat and Phantom Lady from Ramona Fradon. That's fantastic. I bet they're beautiful. That's amazing. Here's a question for Doc. Do you get a lot of Darwin Cook comparisons with regards to your art? Yeah. Yes.
I don't see it. I don't see Darwin in you the way I see it in, I don't know, like Michael Cho or some, you're not the most Darwin-y artist I know.
I see Darwin in his work, but from like 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Right. Now. I think it's a matter of like 10 years ago. Absolutely. Just shy of a really terrible Darwin clone. And I think that kind of thing just follows you.
I can understand that. I always just think in terms of just subject, comparing the two,
Sure.
yes, obviously.
Yeah.
But, you know.
And I don't deserve it at all, but it's very nice of people. I love Darwin and I love his work, but
No, that's awesome.
Do you feel because of that you get pigeonholed, or you get like people want a certain thing from you that?
Not as much as it used to. I think I've been pretty clear about that. That's not the kind of thing I want to keep doing, and I've been clear enough about it to the right people that it's understood that that's not really what I want to be doing.
It was like a concern you had when we started
while.
Strange Adventures.
What's that?
It was a concern you had when we started Strange Adventures.
Oh yeah, because when you pitched it to me, I was like, I don't want to just do retro, smiley, winky stuff the whole time. Because I've been there, and honestly, it gets really old incredibly fast. Like it's fun for a little bit, but it's very one note.
Is there a character? Is there a character, Doc, or even a difference in style? Whether it would be because of a specific character, you might approach something differently, or is there even a style change that you want to explore?
I think I'm getting to do it a little bit on Strange Adventures. I've been kind of wanting to dip my toe into that kind of Mobius sort of look, and getting more toward the kind of the animation stuff I pull from. And thankfully, this book, thanks to Jamie and Brittany, has allowed me the space to kind of just do what I want. So yeah, I mean, this book is pretty much proof of what I've already wanted to do.
Cully's being a wise ass. That's more Evan's cocaine habit that we're seeing rather than.
Hey!
Jeez, it's everything, anything not on the table. Damn. Well,
this is interesting. Imagine Mitch and Tom on Martian Manhunter. I'm down.
Martian Manhunter, I like him, but he has infinite power. Wait, there's some Martian Manhunter coming up.
Issue 5.
Issue 5. That's right.
Hey, wow, cool.
Martian Manhunter's coming up.
I was wondering if we're going to see other planets in the DC cosmic that are aware of the incident and have their own opinions of Adam.
I don't think so. Not this far. I mean, you're going to see different, like on issue 3, the next one coming is 3 the one? No, it's 4 where they go.
4 is when Mr. Terrific goes.
Yeah, so in 4, Mr. Terrific goes to Rand. So you get another. You get to see Rand post Doc's. Doc stuff happens about a year before Mitch's stuff. It's a time jump, sort of. So you get to see what Rand looks like from 2 different perspectives in issue 4, and you get to see Earth because Doc does the Earth. They sort of switch places there. But in terms of other planets, I mean, there's a lot of guest superheroes. There's a lot of Batman. There's Superman, Hawkman. So there's the whole DCU gets involved in this at one point as the story gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It sort of sucks in all of Earth and all of Rand and sort of this big conflict. But I don't. It doesn't get too different cosmic-y, I don't think. I wouldn't say no. As far as I know, I've only written 7 of the issues, so I still have a few more to go.
Okay. Here, Tommy Berta asks, where did you get the facts for the T-balls in Strange Adventures? I'm assuming when
I am calling them T-balls from now on. I'll tell you
T-balls!
Exactly. I got to put my T-balls on ice. Let me tell you.
Oh man, so many jokes came in my head about
T-balls.
I got them from a number of different places. The silliest one I got was from my son is obsessed with cheetahs, and I threw in a cheetah fact for my young. It was the first time I've ever impressed him that I was being a writer, that I got to put a cheetah fact in a book. So that had no symbolism. Some of it, the math question was I was like, what's the hardest SAT question ever? I literally typed that into Google, and I got and it was funny because that was the fact checker. I don't know if she was bored or she wanted to just have fun, but she fact checked every single fact to make sure I didn't miss it. And she's like, no, this is not you. This is Tulsi, little spelling errors and this thing. And but she's like, I tried to do the math and I couldn't do it. So I hope you got that right. So when it came out, I was like, oh, I really should have triple checked that math. That actually works. Yeah, but I tried to get. I mean, the idea. I mean, all the quotes are very symbolic of what's going to happen in the book. And of course the whole story about the knight is a metaphor for sort of what he's going to go through. But I try to get sort of all different kinds of knowledge in there. So there's stuff about like there's stuff from medieval ages, there's stuff from Greek ages, there's stuff from African history, there's some stuff from like anatomy lessons. I try to get like every sort of section of knowledge. There's stuff from Islamic history. There's math, there's science. Yeah, so I try to be like he's like. He just is constantly testing himself on everything at all times is the idea.
I understand.
I think part of it too, like the genius I found when I read that script is it's not like he's trying to win a bar trivia contest and he's training for it. I think by the time you get to that last question that a T-Sphere asks him, you realize maybe those things are asking questions constantly so he can't think about other stuff.
Mitch, don't give away my themes of my book, man. We're going to get the reviewers in the right.
And how about a design standpoint, guys, for Mr. Terrific? Because I've really grown to love not only the outfit, but really I just love the way that they've incorporated the T for his mask and everything. And I even think they pull it off pretty well in the Arrowverse as well on television.
He is now one of my absolute favorite TZ characters. Before we started the book, I thought he was the stupidest thing on earth. Just the name is the biggest offense, and then you throw the jacket on top, and I was just like, man, I don't know. I remember when Tom like pitched this to me when he was at my house, and I was like, this sounds so awesome. And then he's like, and then we'll have Mr. Terrific, and I was like, wait, what? Are you sure you don't want to do Dr. Fate? I'll go do that Atomic Knights thing you wanted.
Dr. Fate, he'd be like, did Adam do it? Amuna. Yes, he did. It'll be like fucking 3 pages long.
Did you pitch a different investigative hero then, other than Mr. Terrific?
No, it was always Mr. Terrific.
Okay.
Like, we talked to Julian Lytle, who's a friend of Tom's and a friend of ours now that we've seen him at shows, and he kind of convinced me Mr. Terrific had more to look into, and so I did. And then the way Tom wrote him in that first script or the second script, completely on board. And there's issue 4 is going to go down as the best Mr. Terrific story so far, easily, hands down.
Well,
that's terrific. Whoever did that book.
That was very idiot. Yeah.
Damn it!
And everyone left the room, and I understand. No, I always loved the new Mr. Terrific's origin with the Spectre, and that's what so I guess it didn't seem silly to me at the time and everything. And also, he kind of even, I think that story legitimized the original Mr. Terrific, Terry Sloan, as well. Who his greatest moment was when he died in that JLA JSA crossover of the 70s. Technically, still an unsolved murder.
Oh, well, we're going to solve it at the end of this thing.
All right, fantastic. That's outstanding.
It was Batman. I'm changing the whole character of Batman. It's going to be the biggest thing.
Well,
I like this. I think Mr. Rivers is fun. I like the idea that the idea of fair play is such a stupid concept, but then you actually think about it, it just means justice, right? It just means everyone gets a fair shot. And that really plays a big deal as we go forward. The idea that there something is not special for you for no reason, like you just because you have to earn who you are is basically what Mr. Terrific is. Yeah.
Well, and Jesse says he thinks Mr. T is the smartest guy in the DC universe, and I know he means Mr. Terrific. Obviously, he's third, technically, with Luthor and Batman.
Yeah, he's called third. I have set up in multiple books in Heroes in Crisis and in Superman Up in the Sky, where I've said that he's the smartest person and he pretends to be third. Something I stole from Justice League Action, the cartoon, which is fantastic if you haven't seen it, and where I got the idea, because the Mr. Terrific episodes there are wonderful if you haven't seen them. Oh, damn.
That's a buzzer game show going off in the background. I apologize.
Wow.
Woods, dead.
He's multitasking like Mr. Terrific.
Yeah, he's
over here.
watching back. He's playing Password back there.
I forgot I had it on pause. Exactly. So it ran out. That's okay. God, I was watching Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour, and I was curious to see what celebrities would be on, and I was hard pressed to name 2/3 of the Hollywood Squares celebrities from the early '90s.
Whoa.
So it was that Bowser from Sha Na Na was one of the bigger celebrities of that group. That should tell you everything you need to know. And I'm sorry to even bring it up. Here we
Hot
go.
Dog from Comedy Bang Bang.
Do any of you have any interest in working on a Green Lantern book? If so, which Green Lantern would you have as the lead? There's only one correct answer. It starts with a G and ends with an R.
Gal
Guy
Jordan?
Gardner.
Narker?
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking Norton before I thought of Guy Gardner. That's a good point. I got to tell you, I'm a massive Alan Scott fan. I love Alan Scott. I love that costume. It's so like awesomely 40s to me with the poofy hand, sleeves and everything, and the purple cape.
They
Who's
just
G.I.
made
What would
What's that?
no, never mind.
What did Doc
That
say?
would be cool. What did Doc say?
It's a Guile Rayner. I'm trying to figure this out.
Guile Ray.
No, it's Guy
Figure
Gardner.
Guile.
It's Guy Gardner.
That can't be right. That can't be right.
The worst Green Lantern.
That bowl cut. That Mo Howard bowl
is
cut.
terrible. The book. Oh, it's terrible. I'm actually pitching some Justice League. Don't tell them some Justice League International ish kind of stuff. So, which Green Lantern? We already did a Green Lantern. That was my favorite. One of my favorite issues I've ever written. I did it with Doc. I got a page of that on my wall up there.
That's right. That's right. I forgot about that.
And I mean, just to go first, Hal Jordan. I did a Kyle Rayner series with Omega Men. So if you want to see my Kyle Rayner, that's out there. But Hal Jordan was probably except for Booster Gold, my favorite character ever to write. He was just so much fun to write. I loved it. Doc nailed every panel of that thing.
I'd do GL again in a heartbeat if it was Hal with Tom. Otherwise, I don't know if I'd necessarily jump at it, but
we have GL coming up in the next issue too, right?
Yep.
Issue 3.
Issue 4.
Four.
Yeah.
What is issue 3? Does he even remember what's in that copy?
Is that Hal then? Obviously, or
Yeah.
Yeah. We have Hal.
I love.
Just so you wouldn't be compared with Darwin Cook, I made it so it's all the 50s airplane.
Hey, John Watson has been persistent. I got to know, why does the writer have all the artwork on his walls, but the artists have bare walls? I'm currently enjoying Mitch's old-fashioned recipe, best I've ever had.
I don't put any cool stuff behind me. Why would I do that? This is where I work. All my cool stuff is
On the board?
near the wall.
There you go. All right, there we go.
there it
Very
is.
nice.
That's
So
right.
That's lovely. I appreciate the look around. That's very nice, Evan. Very cool. Evan, I told you, Kyle Latino did an amazing commission for me.
oh God. All right.
I know. Sorry, I know he's already sick of this story. Sean Connery and Patrick McGowan, and it's of course 007 and number 6 together. And he sent it to me in an envelope, and it has. I'm saying this for the audience. A great, real quick sketch of Iron Fist. And he wrote on the mailer, Doc Shaner original art, and I'm like, that's awesome. So that's my one piece of Doc Shaner art that I own.
Yeah.
So Mitch, write something on an envelope and send it to me. You can do stick figures. I'm sorry. So, but no, I do. I love that, man. Honestly. So, well, when I have money to burn again, boys, I will be. I'll be hitting you boys up for commissions. So, because I do. I love both of your works, and again, I love how the story really works with these two different art styles, and I mean, I know we're in different time periods when we see you guys, in the various scenes, but it's never jarring, and they complement each other in a weird way.
Well, it was a revelation to me. I was reading some Love and Rockets because I was trying to be a fancy comic book writer instead of the usual superhero comic writer. and I normally I am a page turn transitioner. Like I write one page as a story, turn to page, and it's then a new scene. Like I never switch scenes halfway through a page. And I was reading Love and Rockets, and Love and Rockets, like one panel will be this way, and the next panel will be like 5 years later, and the next panel will be 3 years back, and there's no explanation. There's just random dialogue, and then two other characters you haven't seen for 2 years are talking, and then on one level it was hard to read to go in cold, but on one level, after it starts washing over you, there's a certain brilliance to it because the dissonance was creating this kind of cool. I don't know. I was really starting to dig like these weird transitions, and that's when it came in my head that we could do this book where like not just like he does a page, we can put the actual panels where they go off, Doc does one, Mitch does one, Doc does one, that kind of stuff. And we don't have to do transition sentences, the famous like Alan Moore transition sentences where it's like, this, it's so cold in this refrigerator, and the next thing you're in a winter setting, that kind of like, we just kind of threw that out so that the actual pictures start, create their own dissonance, which is really cool between the two. That's my fancy explanation.
I like it. And then someone asked if we would ever see the novel that Adam has written that's in the story time. Is that something that would ever?
That I'd have to write that novel? Will
we see pages of prose from the?
I guess it's possible. You won't see them in the first 7 issues because I haven't done.
Fair enough.
I hate writing prose. I was a novelist at one point in my life, and writing comics is so much more fun. As these guys will tell you, my scripts have no words in them. I basically send them blank pages. So every word I have to write takes too much time. So I just writing prose, that sounds very hard.
What about the design of the pages, guys? Comics Matters Pod. I think the 3-panel layout is brilliant. It brings in a classic epic film feeling. So any thoughts on that decision of designing the book that way?
I like it a lot.
I have lots of feelings. Well, I mean, I stole it from Darwin Cook, so again, we're getting away just to make sure we pigeonhole Doc as much as possible. Darwin used it in New Frontier, and I hadn't realized. I think it was like the 5th read of New Frontier before I realized that the whole thing is on a 3-panel grid. It's so smooth in the way Darwin tells the story, you never notice. And so I decided we had used the 9-panel grid to death, and I felt if we kind of went back to that. But I wanted to do it on a grid because in trying to merge the two different art styles, it makes it a lot easier to have a grid. So it just makes communication a lot easier. So I thought we'd try the 3-panel, and then Mitch and I did 3 issues between the. How many issues did we were experimenting with it to see how it worked? Because we did Batman 62, we did 2 Heroes and 2 Heroes in Crises, right?
2 Heroes in Crisis, yeah.
Yeah. Because I honestly didn't know how to use it, like in terms of because it's weird. It's really hard for people to have conversations in it. You have to put more dialogue because it moves very fast. So Mitch and I almost calibrated it. We used 100. We used the best-selling book in comics, Batman, and an event comic to calibrate our small little artsy party. That's where we do our experimenting. Then we just go over to the side and do the real work.
But then, also too, the best decision we ever made is it's still all based on that grid, but we can break the actual panel numbers and splits.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So I can still throw 9-panel grids at Mitch when I don't know what to do. So, So you can still split it up. The 3 is kind of the base, but you can still split it, like Alan Moore does in Watchmen, where it's not all 9-panel grids, or like I did in Omega Man. So, but the challenge of it is that first and foremost, Strange Adventures is to me an art book as opposed to other things I'm currently writing now, which makes Clay angry. But every panel, I have to put something there that's like an image that is worth seeing because these guys are drawing their fucking minds out. I mean, this book is the most beautiful book on the stands. So I can't, when a 9-panel grid, as Mitch knows better than anybody, I'll be like, somebody stands there, and I'll just put somebody stands there 9 times, But I have to create some sort of image that's breathtaking and worth doing. Because if you just have 3 images on the page, it's almost a chance for 3 beautiful paintings to be on every page.
I agree. Absolutely. How about this question from Yusuf? Hey, Tom, what does it take to write something that leaves a scar in the heart? How can I be a great writer?
What does it take to write I guess you have to cut your heart if you're going to do a scar. How can you be a great writer? You guys, I'm good at this game. How does it feel to write something? I wish I don't know. I wish I didn't write things that cut my heart open. I'd love to write just, I don't know, goofy, like my kids.
Jughead, like Ed Brubaker always used to say, like when he retires, that's what he wants to do is just write Jughead stories, and he'll be very happy. Which I did.
I did that Bugs Bunny Elmer Fudd thing, and everyone talks about the first 30 pages. But the last 8 pages, I got to write a gag comic for where Batman goes into the Bugs Bunny world, and it's like, is it bat season or rabbit season, and they have a stupid Elmer Fudd mode. And that was so much fun. Oh, my God. But I tend to write comics, where like all my emotions are pouring into them. That's the only way I know how to write comics. I wish I knew a different way to write it. And how do you write good? I know the answer to this one. Every time I face a page, I say, how can I tell this story? And then the exact perfect idea pops in my head. I was like, I know exactly how to tell this. And that first thought is always a cliche. It's always a cliche. It's something you saw in Lethal Weapon. It's something you saw in Star Wars. And to be a good writer, you have to throw out that first idea and then come up with something weird and new. Like you have to. I see so many writers who are just like, they're so eager to write that they get to like almost puke out all the cliches beforehand so you can get to the stuff that you actually mean something to.
Okay, and then for the artist, Watson has a good question here. Tom revealed he gets his best ideas in the shower. Mitch and Doc, where do you get your best ideas, and how do you break through artist block? Asking for a friend. Yeah, of course you can.
I get all my best ideas in Tom's shower, too.
Yeah, he does.
Boy, we have fun.
Strange.
Welcome to Prison Break. All right, very nice. Thank you. That's lovely. So.
No, but seriously, I think Tom and I have talked about this. Like, I think every good creative idea I've ever had has been in the shower. I think Jason Aaron says the same thing.
I can see that. Well, and this is Tom and I were talking about it on Monday, and Bendis takes a bike ride and can turn his brain off while he's doing the bike ride. And again, Mike Nichols, I saw him on Inside the Actors Studio, and he said people think, like not writing is being lazy or whatever. And he goes, but you really do have to like get your mind in a relaxed state so that the good ideas can kind of come in. And he goes, yeah, so sometimes putting it away and doing something completely opposite will inspire good ideas. You guys are nodding. Is that the case? Do you find that?
It's the case with art too. If I'm going nuts over something, the only way I can break it is if I just stop for a little bit.
Yep.
How many pages do you guys throw away? Oh, sorry.
Say it, Doc.
I'll just when I do the dishes, that's when I feel like
okay, sure.
It's just long enough to shut my brain off from drawing and not feel like I'm doing something else I have to do. It's okay to not draw for an hour. And that's usually the stuff hits me when I'm doing dishes.
How do you guys decide what angle to draw things at? Like when I see I feel like when I'm writing a comic book, I'm always looking at like a stage play. Like I'm always like, I'm level-headed. I'm seeing the guys this way, and they're always in a 2-shot. How do you guys decide like where to put the camera? Like you could always just put the camera above them or behind them or to the right of them. Like is you just like, man, I don't want to draw that fucking angle today, or is there like, are there tricks you're using?
For me, it's just all the TV and movies I've soaked up over my life. Like, I think cinematography is something that really zaps into artists' heads while they're watching stuff. Like, I almost watch where the camera is more than I watch the actors doing their thing. Mm-hmm. So I think when you're laying out pages, it's the same way. You just see it like a movie.
Oh, so SEAL Team 6 is all about the camera work.
It's just called SEAL Team, Tom.
Oh, sorry.
And it is. They have an amazing cinematographer on that show.
Okay. We gotta move
on. Are you guys old movie people like Tom and I are?
Yeah.
Okay, because honestly,
more so those two than me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Although you were cracking me up when I made an offhand comment about George Lazenby and you were ready to fight me over it, which I understand. It's the best Bond movie on Her Majesty's
Bond.
Secret
I'm all over.
Mitch, honestly, we should do a Bond talk and get Arun Singh, because I know he's a massive Bond fan, and Ibrahim Mustafa is. I have a great beautiful.
I can't keep up with that guy. He's like
but it'd be fun to
Yeah.
like you have the four of us talk about Bond or something like that. So let's try and figure out a day to do that. That'd be great.
Let's do it.
What are your best Bonds, Mitch?
I'm a Craig guy. I think Craig's the best one.
I think Craig is the best one.
Well, I'll tell you, Casino Royale, you could vote for best movie, and I certainly wouldn't disagree. And he's an excellent Bond. I think he's been underserved by literally every other movie. And I like Skyfall a lot more than a lot of other people do. But I do think Quantum of Solace was hurt by the writer's strike.
Oh, yeah.
That was nobody's fault.
Have you ever read I think it was GQ did the whole article about the writer's strike during Quantum of Solace and how they filmed it?
No.
It's this amazing story where basically every day Craig and who's the director?
I forget too.
They would have to get together and be like, I don't know, what should we do? I don't know. And so like they did that whole last like half of the movie on the fly, and like that whole stupid thing where the gas main blows up or whatever. It's like we had an explosion budget and it was the last day of filming, and Daniel Craig was like, I don't know, man, say there's a gas line, it explodes, let's shoot this.
That's awesome. And I really felt Spectre was such a missed opportunity. How do you blow it having Christoph Waltz as Blofeld and write such a shitty story?
Spectre a lot.
Really?
I like Spectre a lot.
I do not like it. You know who really I loved in the movie was Dave Bautista.
Yeah.
Of all, really, it was like that in Guardians. I'm like, hey, this guy's cool. I like Dave Bautista.
It's a weird thing where the reason I loved Spectre so much is that because it was so slow. Like there was something about how slow it was that appealed to me.
Okay. Sam Mendes, was that right for Quantum?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, sorry, Jimmy, Pierce Brosnan. Listen, I like Pierce Brosnan. I like GoldenEye. He also was very underserved. I'm Father Flanagan, if you know your Boys Town Spencer Tracy reference, and there's no such thing as a bad boy. There's no such thing as a bad Bond. I think all the James Bonds have been excellent. I just think they've been underserved by various scripts and directors and stuff over the years. I mean, Timothy Dalton got the rawest deal because he
I would argue
been
that Diamonds Are Forever is a bad Bond movie.
Plenty of cool. Yeah, but I kind of like the reason why
Bond goes to Vegas and orders a Pabst. I don't know about that.
But Sammy's in the movie. Hey, man. Sammy and Jimmy Dean, the Pork Sausage King, the country music Pork Sausage King. They're both in the movie, and they're very funny in it. I understand, and that's the fine. Like that is when like it's like, ooh, Connery, man, you look old. You know, although Never Say Never Again, I remember seeing that in the theater back in 83 or whatever, and thinking, man, Connery looks like hell. And now when I watch it, I'm like, God damn, man, Connery looks great, and he still looks like James Bond. That's fantastic. So, perception. What are you gonna do? So that was good. That was a good Bond interlude. There we go. Jesus. That's why Greg McKean, Adam West, the If Only Bond. You cowards. Stuff. Come on. This is interesting from Mark Wilton. How long in advance do you have the idea for an ending planned? Is it right at the beginning of the process or a few issues in?
For each issue, or I guess
I'm assuming the end of the story.
Somewhere around the end of issue 11.
Somewhere around the end of issue 11. It changes with different. It changes with different. Like I'm working on 3 projects currently. And I figured, yes. I mean, Strange Adventures, I knew kind of where we were going, but I don't think it was till fairly recently that I was like, okay, now I've solidified exactly where we're going. In fact, I just pitched that to the editor today, where I was like, I just want you to know where we're going to end up with this whole thing. Whereas I'm doing a project, the unannounced project, I had the ending at the very beginning. I was like, that's where it ends. I just got to figure out the middle is. And then I'm doing Batcat, and we'll never get to the endings because it won't ever come out. So I don't have to worry about it. No, we're doing Batcat, and I'm still not 100% sure what the ending is, because that's more of a character piece where it's about sort of Selena and Bruce and Phantasm than about sort of big mystery switches like ours is.
By the way, Chris Neisch says the 3 of you on a James Bond comic would be great. I would love to see you guys do a James Bond comic.
Me too.
Sweet.
I'm for it.
5 readers with that.
You know,
We
you're
just
probably
need
right,
DC to
man.
get the license.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say because I gotta hand it though to Dynamite. They got great writers and artists doing those comics.
They do. So
Mhm.
stuff is really good. The James Bond stuff.
Yep.
It's just I don't think those issues don't get out to enough people.
Here's actually Art. I was gonna ask. Hickman says he doesn't write a story if he doesn't have an ending first. All right, good for John. John's not here today, or I'd say good for you, John. That's excellent.
I say a lot of things.
Brad Beeson, are any of you silent film fans? I am. I don't know if you guys go that far back.
I wouldn't call myself a silent film fan. I mean, I know some of it. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
You know
I've
what?
seen a couple. I don't know if I would say I'm a fan.
If you guys
Right.
want a great education on silent films, there was a series in the 80s that Thames Television, British TV production company, made called Hollywood, and James Mason narrates it, and all episodes are on YouTube, and it is amazing. And it isn't just Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin, Harold Lloyd, and that stuff. They do the dramas. They talk about the directors, a lot of the technicians, and even people like King Vidor, who was a great silent film director, was still alive, comments on his films, and actors and actresses that worked on the films. It's really, really impressive. And it was made in the 80s, so it's kind of stock documentary sort of thing. But I think it's an incredible look at silent films in general. So
I mean, silent
I'm
films.
about to launch my Kickstarter for silent film audio dramas.
This is what we have to deal with all day long. This goes on. It's terrible. Do you see what the horror is to be a comic book writer?
I like it, Mitch. Honestly, there you go. All you're doing is making me want to talk more in the future and stuff like that.
I mean, silent film is a language that I don't speak. I feel when I watch, I was like, I don't know what this. Like when you watch, to watch old movies, I had to like watch them a year before I got used to the pacing. And silent film is a different kind of pacing, which kind of does that. What are you talking about? Tom was James Bond. That's right. Double
OK.
That's right. I forget about my days as James Bond. They were exactly like it is in the movies. 100%.
This is interesting. You guys should do a Ralph Dibny book. I think that'd be cool. I could see you guys doing an elongated man story. I think after 52, he's become a much more complicated character.
My editor is always pitching me to do a Thin Man Ralph and Sue Dibny comic because he knows I love those movies.
Those are fantastic.
They're just drunk all the time and solving mysteries. And
now, Asta, just get down for a second. Let me pour you a martini, Nora. It's my bad William Powell.
I'll only do a Ralph Dibny book if it's based off the Flash TV series Ralph Dibny.
Has he been canceled? He's been exactly. I think he's been canceled right now. God, Jesus.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Tom, as a writer, do you collaborate with your artist as you write, or did you complete the script and then turn it over to the artist, and why?
It again depends. It's a terrible. It depends on your relationship with the artist. Right now, I'm only making art with my friends. So, actually, I mean, Strange Adventures is the most towards collaborating with the artist that I've ever been in. I think I would say that.
And look, I'm sorry. Continue, and then I'll point something out.
Where like before each issue, I know what's going to be in the issue. And I'm like, what do you guys want in this issue? What do you want to draw? And I try to incorporate that into sort of my story. And I'm unlike Batcat and the Unannounced Project, where I'm so far ahead of these guys. I'm trying to not keep so far ahead because that way I can sort of react to their art and make it. Because to me, this is an art-driven book. It's all about the art. It's about showing off. I have the two best artists in comics, and I want to show off that I somehow managed to get them to do a project with me. Like that's like the main goal.
Very cool. Right from Mount Olympus, gentlemen, the Wizard Shazam joins us. Walter Simonson.
Oh.
And so Tom, here I'm going to do my Walter. So Tom, how'd you end up writing a Batman story for some old out of work hack artist? That's right, Walter. That's my imitation of you.
Oh, they pitched it to Wheezy, and she said she wouldn't do it with you. So I don't know. I don't know. That's domestic stuff. I don't mess with that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm doing a story with Walt Simonson. That's a thing that's happening. That's amazing. I get to see his pages. It's the best thing that ever happened. Yeah.
I'm quoting myself from the other night. Walter is one of those great Batman creators that always gets left off the list. And it's until you see those great covers and interiors and stuff. And it's like, Oh yeah, Walter. Yeah, that's right. He is amazing. That's right. He did, and of course, as Tom and I talked about the other night, the Manhunter story. Such a great story that he and Archie Goodwin did back in Detective back in the day.
It
Good
set the
stuff.
tone for what Bronze Age comics would be. I really feel that sort of, yeah. Like those are as good as comics can get. The Manhunter stuff.
Boy, I would love to see this crossover, Hisham Zuby. If Marvel and DC started doing crossovers again with Tom Wright, a King Faraday, Hannibal King team up. Well, you got to throw Nick Fury in there too, I think.
No, it's all the kings. It'd be the king. Yeah, absolutely. It would be we three kings. We three kings are stealing the gold. Yeah, I would totally do that.
Very cool.
Lettered by John Workman. Yeah, if you work with Walt, you're getting John Workman lettering. Damn right.
And Walt says Weezy never works with her. That's outstanding. Seriously, I say to Walter, don't shave for at least another year because I want that beard to completely overtake his face. I love it. I absolutely love it. It's fantastic. So too much, man. All right, let's see. Tom, Mitch, Doc, if you were given a second chance on any title you worked on, what would it be? Any regrets? Anything you'd like another crack at, boys?
Anything you have, Mitch? I don't know. What I don't have too many regrets about my comics.
I can go because my answer is short and simple. I wish I'd been able to do all of Future Quest.
Understood.
It was really hard to give up any part of Future Quest, and that's what I would go back and do.
I wish I had put Punchline in my Batman because she sells so much. But the only reason I didn't put her in there is I didn't think of the idea or. So yes, I'm nothing but jealous of what Batman is. No, don't trim up. We disagree. Walt's planning to trim his beard. Like the voice of God.
That's disappointing, Walter, but I do understand. I'm sure it's getting kind of gross in there, so I can appreciate it. So, Nick Darrington, favorite underrated classic comic artist who should get more love? Oh, that's a good question. All right, I think Walter's, although Walter gets his due in general, but I think when it comes specifically to Batman,
What about you guys? You guys are archive. What are your?
Well, how old is classic? That's like one. How old is classic? And I'm never aware of what the cultural awareness of is because I always think like Frank Robbins doesn't get enough love, but most guys I know Frank Robbins, but.
You know what? I got a great Golden Age guy, and then I'm always happy when the older creators are like, oh yeah, Mort Meskin, who did the Vigilante and so many great Western comics. Yes, I'm a massive Mort Meskin
fan. Jack Cole, I think, doesn't
sure
get enough for how foundational he is to what we do.
And isn't it interesting now? People are throwing up answers, and like somebody's got Lee Weeks. KOA says Lee Weeks. Lee should get more credit. I'm with you on that.
I think every artist I know loves Lee Weeks, though.
Yeah.
I don't know. E. Hibbert, educate me, gentlemen, if you do.
I'm actually not familiar with E. Hibbert.
I'll throw out some obscure people because I've been reading a lot of romance comics for some reason lately. The romance artists in the DC comics, J. Scott Pike and John Rosenberger, Art Saff, Win Mortimer. These guys were drawing the best work at DC. In the late 60s. Their art blows me away.
Barbara Freelander, who used to associate edit a lot of the romance books, I got to interview her at Terrificon, and I was so happy about that. And she couldn't rave enough about J. Scott Pike. I'm glad you brought him up. He's amazing. And if you look at some of his romance covers, you'll definitely agree. So, and yeah, you're right, Henry. Frank Robbins did some great Shadow, Invaders, Morbius. I used to talk to Tim Bradstreet and I went to college at the same time. We went to different schools, but they were right next door to each other. And we'd see each other at the comic shops, and we'd always talk about Frank Robbins' Invaders run and how weird it was, but we couldn't keep our eyes off it. It was like that kept coming back for more. It was so cool. And then I really discovered his great comic strip work on Johnny Hazard, and it had that very Kniff look and everything, but it just gorgeous. I'm a massive fan. So there you go. Oh, Kelly Jones. I agree. Although Kelly, I think, gets his due for both Swamp Thing and Batman. And by the way, Kelly is another guy I've got to reach out to and do a word balloon live with very soon. So Phil Hester. I don't consider Phil classic. I consider him contemporary. You'll forgive me, Jimmy. but Phil's awesome. I'm a big fan.
I like Al Williamson better than Wally Wood when I go back and look at the old stuff.
Okay.
And I think in the beginning, I think he's just as good as Frazetta. And then he for some reason, he transitioned to all inks. Oh, J. Scott. Oh, see, there you go.
Walt giving us some knowledge. J. Scott Pike, the model for Neil Adams' Green Arrow in the latter Green Lantern, Green Arrow comics. That's interesting. And by the way, I read that 100-page Green Lantern special that they put out, and I loved that Denny O'Neil, Mike Grell, Green Lantern, Green Arrow story that they did. It was pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. What a nerd.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so Hibbard was a 40s Flash artist, says Chaos in Comics. I did not know that. Good stuff.
We're learning on the show.
Seriously. No, this is great, man. And this is kind of why I like kind of having this kind of general thing for people to kind of chime in and help us out with some answers here and stuff like that. So Todd Knock underrated. Yeah, he's contemporary, but I agree with you. I think Todd's great. He's a fun guy. Of course, you see all the EC guys are legendary. I completely agree with that, but that's why they're not undervalued.
I just throw out one.
You did. That's true. And of course, Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. Yeah. Jeez. Yeah. Oof. So good. So cool. So, Mitch, are we keeping you up? I mean, I don't want to. It's I don't want to mess you up if you got to go, and I don't want to push you up. But
you're not keeping me up. I mean, you guys are way later than I am.
Oh, that's true. But here, let's see. All right, wait, another question. If you guys were to do a solo series on any Batman villain other than Joker, who would it be, and what changes would you make to the character?
I would like to. Someone at a con told me this idea, and they I think the guys have heard of it. A guy came up to me. He's like, "I have the perfect idea for a comic book." Which anyone approaches you at a con, you're very scared of what's going to come next. It's going to be like, it's all about rabbits getting stepped on. You're like, no, why would we? But he's like, what if you did year one, but for a villain? And I was like, that's it. Oh wait, that's actually a really good idea. I like that year one for a villain. Yeah, like Lex Luthor year one. Or Riddler year one. Like that's a cool idea. And I'd love to do something like that. I don't know what villain I would choose. Maybe Mitch wants to do a Riddler thing, so Riddler keeps popping in my head.
Really? And what? And just in terms of, you think he's undervalued as being a smart villain?
I think he's supposed to be a smart villain, but he's always written as an idiot, and it drives me nuts. So I have this idea of where it's like the world's toughest idea to pitch to someone else. Like I remember when I told Tom, he was just like, "That's gonna take me forever." But so just like the smartest Riddler story, where every reveal is an actual thing you can put together, and I want the reader to feel like an idiot every time something's revealed. Like, I should have seen that coming.
Well, now you guys being parents, I love all your work. What comics, cartoons have you exposed your kids to now that you have a fondness for?
My 2.5-year-old is obsessed with superhero girls. It's all he wants to watch. Yep. Wonder Woman. Yep. He always wants a Wonder Woman episode.
My 6-year-old's the same way. It was the same way. We're my family's doing a Justice League Unlimited rewatch right now. Which is still my favorite Justice League of all time. I just can't believe how good that is. Crazy Quilt year one. Crazy Quilt has nothing to do with sewing. Crazy Quilt. That's my favorite part about Crazy Quilt. Has nothing to. I did a whole issue about this. Crazy Quilt does not. He has a hat that hypnotizes you with a quilt of colors. There's no quilting involved in Crazy
Interesting.
Quilt.
I had no idea.
No, people constantly use him in modern comics as like, oh, we need something sewn. Let's get Crazy Quilt. He can't sew shit. He's got a hat that has colors in it. He's not sewing at all.
You don't know what he does in his off time.
And do you know what his alter ego is? He is Gotham. He is Gotham's most popular fine artist. Puts art in a museum, and he's also head of the mafia. So he had 2 jobs.
I like the paint. This is my baroque.
It was like if Banksy was like, yeah, I also run the underground mafia and the underground art. I do both, so that's why you can't see my face. And also, I have a color light on my head that gives you a quilt of colors. No sewing.
Look at this guy pimping his own podcast on my show. What are you doing, Chase? I'm teasing you. If I didn't want to put it up, Chase, I wouldn't have. Did a podcast with my 8-year-old reviewing a superhero girls movie. Comes out this week on the Comic Source. Good for you, Chase. That's very nice. So we'll be looking for that, as Johnny would say. That's excellent, man. That's cool. Any thoughts on Vigilante from Justice League Unlimited? Even Darwin Cook drew him in an issue of The Shade. Well, again, Greg, I would tell you that Mort Meskin draws a killer Vigilante.
Mm-hmm.
So,
any thoughts? Yeah, he's awesome. I don't know.
Greg Saunders.
Yeah.
Costume and guns and Old West and stuff. And yeah, I'd love to do a Western book. That'd be so much fun.
That's
I
cool.
did covers for a modern vigilante book from a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah, that's who wrote that
Yeah,
book?
but he wasn't a cowboy on a motorcycle.
I know.
He wasn't a cowboy.
He was on a motorcycle.
Yeah, sure he was.
Oh, here, let's see. For Doc and Tom, your Green Lantern one-shot from Dark Side War. A few years ago, one of my favorite GL stories. What was your approach to Hal as a character?
I feel bad saying this, but I wrote him exactly as Bill Shatner as Captain Kirk. That is exactly how I wrote him. I've always wanted to write Star Trek comics. That's what I'm going to do when I retire. And yeah, he was the guy who says, "Why does God need a starship?" He's the guy who tells V'ger no to his face. He just no fear, whatever, So when the whole thing it escalates with like every single superhero is like, "I don't want to be God. It's too much power," and they get destroyed. And then they're like, Hal Jordan, do you want to be God? And he's like, "Fuck yeah, make me God." So yeah, I wrote him as Shatner. That's my favorite character in all of fiction is Kirk.
Mitch, Doc did. I'm sorry, Doc. Please answer if you.
Well, no, I just to tail end that. Like when I say like if I were to do a GL thing, I'd want it to be Hal with Tom because I didn't really I didn't have any opinions on Hal before I worked on that with Tom, and the way Tom approached him is what made me like him at all. And now he's my favorite GL. And
we gave him such an asshole moment in Strange Adventures.
Yeah, whatever. He's a person. I like the making him. I think making his. I think you were talking the other night, Tom, about. 'Cause isn't Batman now half Jewish?
Yeah.
And Tom introduced the idea of Hal also being half Jewish in that issue, and I love that.
Jeff Johns had already put that into continuity. I was stealing.
Oh, did he? Okay, I didn't know that, but
I didn't know that either.
I love that idea, and anyway, yeah, I like that now.
Very cool, guys. Did any thoughts, Mitch and Doc, on the Michael Keaton coming back as Batman rumors? What do you guys think?
I'm all
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
What if they're really against it? They're like, fuck.
Yeah, no. I can't think of
Also,
anyone
like,
either. Really.
We're late '80s, early '90s kids.
Yeah.
There's no way that's not going to be like. That's exactly what I want.
I know, right?
I saw Batman '89 9 times in theaters.
Oh, Sal has a Hal Jordan pitch for me. Crap.
Very nice.
I don't have enough to do. I got a movie to write.
This is true. Very true. Oh, here, Tom, I heard you had an idea for a sequel to Omega Men with Hawkgirl, but it wasn't greenlit. Do you think you could still have a story with her in you?
Yes, I would love to do a Hawkgirl story. I like her design. I'm especially watching Justice League Unlimited show where she's so cool, and in Unlimited she's already betrayed the whole Justice League, so she's coming back. So she's got that good Tom angst where she wants to look out at the rain and be sad about it. Yeah, I know. I love her weapon and just bashing
Did you just
people.
say Tom Hanks?
Tom Hanks.
Hanks.
Yeah,
Tom Hanks.
Good Tom Hanks
by the way,
energy.
he's a 50s Batman. Tom Hanks. Yes. Nobody drew Tom Hanks better than. Oh God, no! Shelley Moldoff. Let me give his name out there.
Yeah, I'd love to do anything with her. I think she's fantastic. I don't know. I think it'd be hard for artists. That's my only hesitation of a Hawkman book. I imagine drawing feathers all the time would get fucking annoying. Yeah.
Oh, Jesse asked if you're talking about Kendra or Shiera, and obviously Shiera is from Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah, I'm talking about Shiera. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I like Kendra fine, and I guess she's really just a later incarnation of Shiera when you get down to it.
Yeah.
But I liked was it Julie Schwartz or Kubert that made her hair orange or whatever? I can't remember. But I know one of them, it was like kind of an homage to the wife or whatever, making his hair color, making her
I
hair.
thought it was before Kubert, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Jeez. Wait, what's here? There seems to be a thing about some artists that do not appeal off the bat. Kirby, Robbins, Kubert, Colin, but then you realize how good they are. Got to tell you, man, Robbins is the only person on that list that I had that kind of, I'm not sure if I like this or not. Kirby, Kubert, and Colin, I liked from day one. I don't know about you guys.
Kubert was like one of my very first, like, this is something I love and I want to know more about it. So I can't get on board with that.
Yeah, I used to dig through dollar bins and would still do it if I could find reader copies of Silver Age War comics with Kubert doing the covers. And and then luckily got to have him sign a stack of them before he passed away. And also it was so great. And now I'm blanking on the artist. One of the other military books. And I'm like, who is this, Joe? I go, I know it's not you, and I know it's not Ross Andrew and whatever. And he's like, oh, it's blah, blah, blah. I can't think. It wasn't Don Newton. Maybe it was Don Newton. Can't remember now. But it was so great because literally like 2 seconds, he's like, oh, blah. And I'm like, okay, great. Thank you. Mystery solved. Thank you very much, man. So
Kirby, I agree with you, Kubert. Like Kubert, I don't know. He just seems to draw like almost a platonic ideal of comics. He's just one of those guys. But Kirby, I did not like as a kid. I'm one of those very typical guys. I think I came to him. I was an 80s, 90s collector, and then I would go back and get back issues. And when I went to the back issues, I only went probably back to the 70s because I couldn't afford anything beyond that. And so I was reading sort of the 70s Kirby stuff when he was super blocky, and his art. And I just like it didn't. It wasn't until I got the reprints of the 60s stuff, and then there the 40s stuff, which is I think even better. That I was like, oh, I see what this is. There's an energy here that's not in anything else.
Doc and Mitch, are you guys part of the big Legion issue coming soon?
2 issues.
We actually bookend it. So Doc's the first page of issue 8, and I'm the last page of issue 9.
Nice.
Yep.
Hey, that's great. And then someone also asked Tom, have you co-written yet with Brian Bendis? And if not, would you want to?
I have not co-written with Brian Bendis, and I love him. Brian Bendis is one of the writers I worship, one of the writers I got into comics with. And I would love to learn from him and talk to him about anything. I would not want to co-write with him. I'm no good at co-writing. I'm terrible at it, I would say.
Okay, sure.
What have I co-wrote? I co-wrote with Scott once, and I don't know how to do it. Do we do every other page? Do we have an idea, and then we're gonna and what if like Brian wants something and I want something else, and I got to fight with Brian Bendis, one of my heroes? That doesn't appeal to me at all. It sounds horrible. I would love to.
What about with Tim?
Well, Tim and I had a great system. God bless him. Tim and I realized right up front that we have very different styles, but we got along on everything. So we'd get along on the phone, and we would just leave each other alone. That was our fantastic system, where he'd be like, okay, you do an issue and I do an issue, and we were kind of our first editors, but I don't think we ever give any notes to anyone, and we just sort of traded off that way. And because the plot was generally going in one direction, it all worked. And so Tim's issues had wonderful, brilliant Tim moments, and my issues were fine. And that worked because we both sort of realized that we didn't want to tell the other one what to do.
I agree with the person who just said that you and Celia were great together. And it just in knowing Tim as I have for 15 years, Tim does seem like an easy collaborator. And as far as like, I think also a great writer to kind of break in with too, where I think he can kind of, and again, this is my own observation from the various people that he's worked with, even currently with Sarah Beatty on Money Shot, that Vault Comics book that I really adore and is so dirty and funny.
I was just talking to Tim today, man. I love that guy.
He's the best. He wants to. He and Mike Marisi, I think, are going to do a trivia contest with me because Tim's like, hey, if you ever want to do horror trivia, and I'm like, well, I got to get somebody else because I'll just MC that. I can't. I suck at that stuff. But I have my horror trivia questions ready, and I have a feeling he and Marisi will be doing a tribute.
That'd be fascinating. All right, I'll say that.
So that should be fun. Dr. Mitch, have you worked with anyone you vowed never to work with again? And if so, yeah, good luck if they're going to give details. But has it just
Still
in
got
general?
7 more issues to do, buddy.
You don't have to name names, guys. But have you had a bad collaboration?
Mitch Gerads.
Gerads, is that how you pronounce it?
Mitch Gerads.
Turtles.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I've been extremely fortunate so far in my career, so I don't have anybody.
Cool. And now, and I'm going to expand this from what Architectural Foam Panels and Columns is saying. Tom, you mentioned Love and Rockets. Are there other non-superhero comics, past or present, you guys are currently reading? Also, I wanted to extend that because someone had asked earlier, are there any non-comic books that you guys are currently reading, just novels or whatever?
I'm currently reading a biography of Bob Fosse, who's an asshole, but I read that Chinatown book which came out, which was brilliant. I don't know if anyone's read that. I can't remember the author, but a book on the making of Chinatown, and I just loved it so much. I'm reading everything that guy wrote. So I read his Breakfast at Tiffany's book, and now I'm reading his Bob Fosse book.
Oh, that's cool. I'll be. You're gonna have to send me that author's name, Tom, because I'm like that with Scott Iman, who wrote an amazing John Wayne biography.
Oh, yeah.
And now I'm halfway through his book about the friendship between Henry Fonda and Jimmy Stewart. And I'm really in the Warriors right now and what they were both doing during World War II. And it's a fascinating book. It's amazing.
His name is Sam Wasson.
Sam Watson. Good to know.
It's
Cool.
my third, and it's really, really good.
Gabe Hardman had recommended that Chinatown book as well. So I do want to read that. That's excellent. So, guys, anything else you're reading? Non-comics or non-comics?
I'm behind on like every comic ever made. Strange Adventures is the only comic I'm up on right now.
And honestly, are you concerned ever? Because I know from a writing standpoint myself, and I've heard this from other, like Seeley always said he could never read World War Z by Max Brooks or Kirkman and Walking Dead while he was doing Hack Slash because he didn't want to be influenced by those when he wanted to write zombies.
I don't feel like I'm wired that way. I feel like I'm wired the opposite.
Yeah.
Like I would want to watch it.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah,
I don't think
and-
it would force me to do things, but it would at least force me to move into a headspace or something.
Do you guys listen to any audio? Brad is asking any Audible recommendations.
Oh my God. I am
It's the king of
podcast obsessed.
Attaboy, Mitch.
Oh yeah, podcast. Yeah.
Attaboy, Dak.
Radio
I know
dramas.
Tom's a big
and
podcast guy, so that's all right. I'm talking to 3 podcast guys. I like that.
I've been burning through podcasts for months now.
So what
I
are your
just-
favorite ones? Recommend.
I just listened to the most recent Dana Gould hour, which was fantastic. I always love his show every month.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm digging You Must Remember This, the old Hollywood thing, because it's cool because Turner Classic Movies is doing a great Peter Bogdanovich deep dive where Ben Mankiewicz is interviewing Bogdanovich. And on the flip side, Katrina Longworth on You Must Remember This is doing a whole history of Polly Platt, Bogdanovich's first wife and chief collaborator on a lot of his early movies. And it's like, yeah, here's the stuff Peter's not talking about. And this is what Polly actually did on those movies. And she has surviving cast members and the producers that worked on Last Picture Show and Paper Moon and Nickelodeon and things like that. And it's like, yeah, Polly deserves a lot more credit than Peter gives her. And it's like, this is really interesting. So it's very, very timely given things that have been happening in the comic book neighborhood of late. It's nice to hear some positive, like, hey, by the way, this woman is really important and deserves her due. So yeah, any other podcast? Forgive the editorial, gentlemen. Any other?
No.
podcast?
So I just burned through, I think it's like 800 some hours of the No Sleep podcast over the last few months. It's a horror.
800 hours.
Yeah. 14 seasons, like 25 episodes. They're each like 2.5 hours long.
Refresh my memory. No Sleep.
Well, it's fiction, right? It's a story.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a story.
Yeah,
Oh, that's fantastic.
They're radio dramas. Yeah.
That's fantastic. That's great to hear, Mitch, because
Yeah.
I'm a big old time radio freak, so that's good to know.
Yeah, exactly.
So much
and then
writing.
like every season they do an old time radio episode. So like they go back, find like these old horror shows from like the 40s and redo them now with their voice actors. But So that, and then now I've just discovered this new like sci-fi podcast, like radio drama podcast called The Liberty Files, or Liberty. I think it's Files. It's Liberty something. I think it's just called Liberty, but it's kind of this crazy sci-fi world. But they do different seasons, and each season's like a different theme. So it's all within the same world, but like this season will be horror, and this season will be this, and blah blah.
Interesting.
It's been really cool, and the voice act, like I think that's the thing that has appealed to me so much is like the voice acting is like really good.
You know, Susan Eisenberg, who's Wonder Woman on the Justice League Unlimited series and stuff, she was working on a great suspense revival, the old 40s show, and they would modernize the old episodes and stuff. And it's a really good series of podcasts as well. So I'll mention that. Doc, any podcast recommendations?
When I listen to, I flip back and forth between listening to podcasts and kind of listening to shows. I want to talk to you guys because since we last talked, John, I watched the entirety of Columbo.
I didn't know you'd finished it.
Attaboy.
Yeah, I didn't talk about it because the Bill Shatner episode bummed me out so much. I was like, I got to stop talking about Columbo now.
Oh my God, I love that episode. That's a great, and I love that it's the way they he hides his murder and everything, and that it's VCR technology.
Yeah, I like
VCR technology.
I liked it more when I stuck through it, but at the very beginning, I don't even know what it was, but something about it was so repellent to me at first. I was like, oh, this is the first Columbo I hate.
Oh, that's interesting.
I mean, it was like, it's like 5 or 6 seasons in, but.
Yeah. My, the one I rewatched recently was with Louis Jourdan as the killer, and it's all the chefs. And I really love that one. That's a great one. So you didn't even ask to have your stomach pumped. Just that, and also I like the one with Martin Landau where he plays the twins and he's on the cooking show with Martin Landau.
Yeah, what the hell? I didn't know going into it that there were certain actors that came back to play the bad guy multiple times. Like when who is it that shows up every season?
Robert Culp.
Yeah. What the hell? I want to see a show where they like spin out that those 4 guys were all brothers.
We've been torturing this guy.
At least Patrick McGowan looked different in all of his episodes.
Right.
I love, man, that's another one, man, the military school that Patrick McGowan is the commandant of and stuff. And I like those ones where the killer is a good guy, or like the Donald Pleasance winery episode, Mr. Carcini. Yeah. And it's like you feel bad for the murderer because it's like, all right, he doesn't like his brother, but so. Oh my God! Oh, that's awesome. Jimmy's been rewatching classic Perry Mason. I love. Yes, that's right. As the killer showing himself, Your Honor, in this particular time.
John, did you try the new show? Is it any good?
It's on my DVR. I haven't watched it yet, and I love that actor from The Americans. I forget his name. He's so good. So I'm rooting for it. I hope it's good. It seems a little more noir than, and I'll confess I never read the Earl Stanley Gardner books. But
he's not a lawyer. He's a PI or something.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's a prequel. Maybe it's a Perry prequel.
It's supposed to be a Perry prequel, which is awesome.
So, oh God, yeah, Doc, have you seen Wings of Desire, the Wim Wenders movie? That is
on my
beautiful.
list.
It's beautiful.
It's on my list. It's something I want to actually sit and watch instead of just listening to. So.
No, my kids
you have to watch it. Yeah.
My kids and I watched The Muppet Caper, where Columbo appears.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's hilarious. I didn't watch the later
7-minute monologue. It's like the fucking funniest thing you've ever.
I will have to see that. That's fantastic.
My kids were laughing hysterically.
And Peter Falk was great in the Cassavetes films. Gore Vidal is correct. So I agree with that. Mm-hmm. That's hilarious. So, Tom, how's the process of writing New Gods with Ava? How's it going?
It's going well. Yeah. I mean, Ava is one of the. What's the best way to put it? She's a leader in the Black community, but she's almost one of the American leaders. I don't want to just limit her to one community. So she's busy with a lot of that stuff right now because there's a lot of justice issues going on, and she's driving. I mean, right now you can watch because she did the The 13th, which has become a really influential movement on the new Black Lives Matter, a movie within Black Lives Matter, and that movie's now free on most streaming services. So she's dealing with a lot of that stuff, and meanwhile, we're talking script, and like I said, I'm working on it right now. Taking a break from comics for a few weeks to go back into that script and hash out some scenes. So yeah, it's going real well.
That's cool. Are you guys Cronenberg fans? David Cronenberg. Any thoughts on any David Cronenberg movies?
I'm not a huge. I mean, I think I've seen them, but I'm not a huge fan of Cronenberg. Sorry, I wish I had some more knowledge. I remember I watched what's the really weird one, the one with the television.
Videodrome.
Videodrome. Yes,
I watched. About to mention that. That's probably my favorite one with James Woods and Debbie Harry. Very weird.
Woods, I knew what a piece of shit James Woods was. And I really just dug this shit. It's like the perfect movie when you're 18 and you're like, nothing means anything. Yeah, that's like a wonderful video. Yeah, Videodrome was my favorite when I was a kid.
Now, Jimmy says he wants to see Zoe Saldana as Big Barda. I don't see it. She's a little too slight to be Big Barda, in my opinion. I need someone more Zoftig to be, kind of
no comments on casting. That's my comment on the casting.
I understand. That's okay.
There's only one character I have in my head who's played by one person, so that's all I have. But that's it.
Kale Wah, here's a good one for all three of you. Has there ever been a character you couldn't get your head around? And then I also asked, what about a Creeper miniseries?
Yes, there have been characters I can't get my head around. Mostly Batman characters. Or people that were hard to write. You asked me this. The people who are sort of more. Wonder Woman. I can't write Wonder Woman. That's the one I'm trying to think of. Can I write? I've written her a few times. I don't know. I don't understand her history because it's changed so many thousands of times. I don't there's so many approaches. Is she the mythic hero? Is she the urban hero? Is she the I wrote her with an accent because the movies had come out and people were like, why are you writing her with an accent? I was like, isn't English her second language? Doesn't she have an accent? And they're like, no. Do you write her as Linda Carter? Do you write? I feel bad for Joelle Jones who drew those issues because she drew them beautifully, but I don't feel like I gave people a fantastic Wonder Woman. I haven't quite mastered who that character is. For me, I just don't connect with her or get it as much as I should. So that's why.
Guys, any current or up and coming comic creators that you're enjoying their work?
Oh my God, a lot.
Yeah, so many.
Tom Riley.
Yep, that's what I was gonna say first too.
Cool.
Ben Tiesma. He just had his first book came out today. The Dead Body Road sequel. But I've been championing him for a long time. It's super cool to see him get something good.
Yeah, Gina Carano looks like Big Barda. I can't deny that.
Okay. Where's the one here? God, everyone's chiming in with questions and they're good, but here, I like this one. Any new hobbies you guys picked up during the virus? Doc, have you been brushing up on more Transformers knowledge? Have you read any of the comics?
Whoa. It's not, you know what? I'm not actively brushing up on anything. It's my son. My son absorbs every single thing he hears about Transformers, and then it's all day. It's just repeating facts to me about Transformers. And now I got a bunch of these little creeps all over my office. I don't know who half of these guys are.
That's awesome.
My 6-year-old is obsessed with Survivor. That's all he wants to talk about. You give him any set of things, he organizes them. And he woke up this morning, ran into my wife's, and I was still asleep, so my wife was up. My wife's room. It's our room, I guess. But ran into. It's like I had an idea. What if all the states were on Survivor? Would you vote out Louisiana first, or would you vote out Minnesota first? I think Louisiana would vote. It's everything is organized in terms of Survivor. By the way, I also showed my kids Survivor way too early in their lives, but that's
very cool.
I've gotten super into bourbon, basically.
My advice to you is to drink heavily.
But I don't know, something at the start of quarantine, something clicked and I watched the right documentary or something, but I started buying books and learning about it. And now it's become a total, it's replaced my comic book obsession to where I know what days they release at certain stores. Like this afternoon, I got to stop working now because I have to run to the liquor store because I know the larceny pick is coming out.
I love that you're like, I got heavy into that thing people associate with me very heavily.
See, but
No, like, I got really into
bourbon.
beards and
I got really into
No. I've always liked bourbon, and I've always made old fashions. Like that's been my thing forever. But like only during quarantine did I actually start learning about the spirit I was drinking, other than I liked it.
The spirit. Oh, sorry.
I like
Can't win with you assholes.
There's a great, just amazing selection of every kind of booze. And I would, back when I had a full-time job in radio, this chief engineer of mine found this old episode of CBS On the Road, Charles Kuralt, and they went down to South Carolina where they made this special kind of ginger ale from the spring water. And it just fascinated us. And it's like the bottling machine was from 1900.
Oh yeah, all that stuff is the most fascinating part. Like just the age statements, and like you buy something that's 20 years old and you realize like the distiller who is working there probably wouldn't see the third batch they made because they'd be dead by then.
I can understand. It's
I've been learning a lot about original art, collecting original art, because I've been buying myself original. I always knew, like I always picked up a page at a con, but now there's no cons. So now I know all the auction houses. I'm registered for all of them. I know when the auctions are going. I know which dealers specialize in which have better stuff on the, and the whole secret cabal concept and like the whole thing. Yeah. So that's like, now I'm like into it enough that I'm losing money. So
when I was a little kid, I used to get from my dad when he'd come back from a trip, Corgi cars. And so I had the Batmobile car and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and one of the James Bond cars and stuff. So now the Corgi cars are kind of expensive, but I have been buying various Hot Wheel cars that are, and I just bought, and especially because I loved Ford versus Ferrari, I got a Shelby Cobra from, a 65 model Shelby Cobra from the Hot Wheels and stuff. And I'm very excited about that coming. And it's, $10. I'm like, fine, great. And again, I'm not buying because they'll be rare or anything like that. It's just get me cool cars. So I got a Bond Aston Martin Hot Wheels, got a classic 66 Batmobile Hot Wheel. And I did splurge and get one Corgi of the GoldenEye Aston Martin. And that's cool. And I'm glad I got that. But for the most part, I've just been getting, because the Hot Wheels, man, so they're classic. I love that stuff. So.
Yeah.
I worked at a toy store in high school, and the Hot Wheels collectors were the most annoying of all. And then literally, like the day I came in, like the manager was like, "I have to warn you about the Hot Wheels collectors." And this was before internet, because I'm that old. I was like, "Oh yeah, sure, Hot Wheels collectors." Like, no, they'll scam you because they need to get into the box in the back to find the 1 in 100 variant, And so they'll be like, "Hey man, this is really cool. Mind if I check out that box back there? It looks really." And then they just throw everything on the floor, desperately looking for this one. And it was like a whole scam they were running.
Tom, you're getting 2 questions about original art. One, do you have Superman versus Ali original art, or was that a print?
That's a print. Yeah, I have a print I bought from. I got a print of the cover of the Neil Adams original thing that actually Joe Kubert did the first volume of it.
That's right. Yeah, the celebrities all in the audience.
And it's in the other room. I had anyone who was in the picture who was still around sign it. So like,
oh, fun.
Walt Simonson, for example, is in the picture, and Howard Chaykin's in the picture, and
that's great. Did you get any of the sweat hogs from Welcome Back, Kotter? Before
I haven't gotten anyone who's not a comic book celebrity.
Okay, all right.
I think I have most of the comic book guys because I just happen to be most of them. A lot of them are inkers because Adams ran an ink shop back then. So he just put his whole ink shop in there. So, but a lot of those guys were, for some reason, at a bunch of Comic Cons I went to. So it was super fun.
Now, I don't know if you have anything that's not on the walls, Tom, that you can show, but people are asking. And guys, I'd open it to you guys too if you had any loose original art or anything that you'd want to show to the camera.
I've got my own.
That would be lovely. I'm for it.
No, I don't think there's anything that interesting.
How much for an original script, Tom? Because I want that up on the sky number 1. Jimmy asked that question. Oh, there you go.
There's the wall. So you can see I have Batman #1 back there. I have an
I don't know how to isolate Tom. Can I do that? I guess it'd take us out of the stream for a second. So here, we'll do that for a second.
Ah, haha! I rule this podcast. It's now the Tom King podcast. Welcome. Wait, you guys have literally disappeared. I'm in the show by myself. Oh, it's Tom. I got to improvise.
There you go.
Bam.
Oh, and now everyone's in different positions. Okay, so let's see. All right, now I'm going to take everybody out and let Mitch show his page there. Hold on a second.
Oh, here. I got this one.
What was that of?
That was the #5 cover.
Oh, nice. Wow.
Yeah.
I showed this to the guys before, but I got this Alex Toast.
Oh, that's awesome. Is that Phantom Lady?
That's Supergirl for an Underoos commercial.
That's even more insane. That's fantastic. Wow.
I can see. But yeah, that's cool.
Okay.
Jeez. What do you got, Doc?
That one above the computer.
Outstanding. Is that yours, Doc? Did you draw that?
No, it's Kevin Nolan, Kid Flash.
That's fantastic. Oh, man. And there's nothing like the classic Kid Flash costume. I love that costume. Yeah. And he had good hair. Couldn't hide that good Wally West hair.
Yeah.
Coming out of the top of his head like that. Oh, man. And by the way, I got to talk to DC. This reminds me, and people can bug me about it if I don't do it sooner than later. I got to get Carrie Bates's contact information. I would love to have a conversation with Carrie Bates.
Oh,
wow, Mitch, what's that from?
You haven't framed that?
That is the Clayman double-page spread from Heroes in Crisis.
Oh, yes. Of course it is. And there's Wally. Yes. All set with the flowers. Absolutely. Good Lord.
That's too many flowers, Clay.
Very cool. Beautiful stuff, boyos. I like it. Anyone have any Dave Gibbons art, Jimmy asks.
Oh, I wish.
No, I don't have. No. Gave you this stuff. You can get some of it. I mean, as long as it's non-Watchmen stuff, some of it's decently affordable. But no, I don't have any. I'd love to get some.
There you go. Oh, that's funny. Here we go. Callum says more.
I've seen Watchmen pages in the wild.
Have you?
Yes.
Does Pants from Comic Geek Speak? Does he have any Watchmen pages? Pants is a big collector.
He is a big, but he collects something very specific. He collects all the issues of 52.
The pages of 52.
Which is
he has great old Golden Age comics as well. He's got a hell of a collection. He does. I miss that guy. Pants is truly one of my favorite podcasters. Oh, John Watson asked, does anyone have any Frank Miller pages?
No, stupid Frank. I like Frank Miller.
Yeah, I know you do.
But, we all three of us have the same comic agent who takes us to con. His name is Doug, and Clayman, who's our other brother, was Doug's first employee. And then when Scott Snyder signed up as an incentive, Doug said, "I'll get Frank to do an 11x17 sketch for you if you sign up for me." And so Scott called me and was like, "Hey, man, if you sign up, you can get a Frank Miller sketch." So I was like, "Doug, I'm in. Let's do it." And he's like, "No, that's no longer on the table, dude." I was like, "Fuck." So that was a Scott Snyder special. I'm not important enough to deserve a Frank Miller sketch. So yeah, no.
Bummer.
Yeah, they sent me a Mitch Gerads sketch and I threw it out.
I'll take some Mitch Gerads bourbon sometime.
I missed out on the Frank Miller thing.
Do you guys have any Darwin pages?
I have 2 Darwin pages.
That's Darwin drew in one of my Parker novels.
I've got one of those. Yeah.
So, man, there's a guy. Wonderful bar conversations. Never got him on the podcast, and I regret not having more conversations. Fanboy really got to know Darwin quite well, and had some pretty intense podcast conversations with him over the years. So, yeah.
I hate to say it, guys, but I think I have to.
No problem.
Jettison out of here.
No, he stayed a lot longer than he thought he would, and I appreciate that, honestly. And guys, if you guys are because you guys are East Coast, I mean, it is after midnight. It's up to you guys. We can keep going, or we can wrap up. It's up to you.
I should go pretty soon, just because I did until 1:30 the other night. So my wife is apparently I have to take care of my children in the morning or some bullshit.
I understand. Doc, it's we can wrap up if whatever.
Yeah, I should. I'm still at the office, so I should probably go home.
Okay. Oh, Jesus. All right. Yeah, man. My God. Boys, honestly, Tom, first of all, 2 days this week. Good Lord. Like I said. So check it
yes,
out.
I'm sure people are tired of me.
But no.
I just realized Walt Simonson's watching, and I have a picture of Walt Simonson behind me, so hopefully they didn't see it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's amazing. Jesus.
Yeah, always wonderful, John. I love your podcast. You guys, if you're still on, subscribe to John's Patreon for just the price of a comic book, $4. You could buy that comic book 4 times as much as once a month, $4. Please do that.
Oh, that's really nice. And thank you. I appreciate that. Gentlemen, I'll let you go. I'll wrap up here. But thank you for your time as always.
Cool.
And
thanks for having us as always.
Oh, please.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And no, I we'll do new solo stuff as we go along, and certainly when things wrap up, maybe when there's a dramatic mid-issue moment, and then certainly I don't want to tax all of you, but let's have conversations about Strange Adventures as we go on this year. We've got 10 more issues to get through, so tremendous work, guys. Really beautiful story, and I know we're all digging it, so well done. Then I thank you for your time.
Thanks.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Have
John.
a good night, and I'm going to slowly take everybody out. And thank everybody for watching. I'll answer a couple last questions. Let's see here. Gore Vidal, where were you? You had a good question about Rod Serling. No, I got to find it. Where the hell is it? Here it is. Have I ever seen Rod Serling's Joseph Mankiewicz's A Carol for Another Christmas, retelling Christmas Carol with a Cold War setting, starring Sterling Hayden, Peter Sellers, and Eva Marie Saint? No, I'm assuming that's a golden age of television play that they did. Yes, Nick, they are quitters. What are we going to do? Nick, we got to talk. I'll be bugging you via direct messaging, and let's make something happen. You did a hell of a job on Batman with Bendis, and I'm a longtime fan of your stuff, so we should be talking very soon. So let's see. Was Watchmen an inspiration while making Mr. Miracle? Will that ending be explained? Okay, well, I guess that'll have to be a question for another day, boys. I apologize. What else? Oh, thanks, man. That's nice. I appreciate that, Brock. Great Word Balloon live on YouTube. Thank you. Word Balloon playing live on my Facebook page, on the Word Balloon Live Facebook page as well, on YouTube, on Twitter via Periscope, and even on Twitch, where I've got like 2 people watching me at once, if I'm lucky, but I am there. So if that's one of your favorites. So Matthew, what do I think of Jordan Peele's Twilight Zone? Speaking of Rod Serling, I am greatly disappointed in Jordan Peele's Twilight Zone. I hope he is not involved in the writing, because compared to his movies, it isn't that good. I was going to use a more derogatory term, but I decided not to. I am very hopeful for season 2. It's part of that problem. Hey man, I'm a liberal, if you guys haven't noticed, but when the politics come before the story, that's a big problem. And I'm finding that a lot with those Twilight Zones and with new Star Trek, as people are sick of me already talking about. So I thank you for that. But yeah, I'm hoping for the best. Thank you, Long Nguyen. I appreciate that. This is nice, KO. Your YouTube stream is the evolution of the podcast. Thank you for keeping these things positive in a stressful time. No shit, man. God, I mean, what a weird last 7 days of creators that I used to have a lot of respect for, that sadly have kind of revealed their true personal selves. It's a sad revelation, and I'm very sad to hear that happen. And all I can say is that I'm sorry. I mean, I even did a project with one of the guys that some things came out about today, and I'm not very happy about that. And I kind of feel like the guy lied to me and a lot of other of us that were willing to give him the benefit of the doubt when he had other issues of harassment before, and he attributed it to alcoholism. And then the facts came out, and it's like, actually, here's a couple times that alcohol wasn't involved. So that's really disappointing, and I'm sorry. And you guys can read between the lines on who I'm saying. Gore says that Christmas broadcast was in the early 60s. It wasn't broadcast again until TCM began showing it in recent years. Oh, I'm going to have to look for that. That'll be very interesting to see. I'm a massive fan of any Rod Serling pre and post Twilight Zone stuff. 7 Days in May, tremendous movie that he did back in the day. All those golden age of television anthology programs that he worked on. I'm constantly buying DVRs or DVDs of those, and then also finding them also on YouTube, which is pretty interesting too. And he bet his tapes coming soon. Brian has been on a lot of other shows, And I think the combination of doing those and also the events of what's been going on have kind of burned him out. We were planning on doing something this month, but he's like, yeah, "Can we wait a little bit?" I'm like, "Of course we can." So Brian's coming back, but it might be a couple weeks still, but that's okay. I'm totally fine with that. And I want Brian relaxed, and I'm glad that he did do other people's shows. He did a great conversation with Dave Harper. He did a great conversation with Sam Humphries on DC Daily, the show that was on DC Universe. So, yeah. Do you think comics can survive everything that's been going on lately? Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. The comic books are bigger than these problems and will correct these problems. And the biggest, I think, issue with comic books was for the longest time, they were independent companies. They were small potatoes in the great scheme of media. But now that they are part of bigger media conglomerates, the bosses above won't tolerate the behavior that some of these, creators and editors and people in the higher up offices, that won't be tolerated. So as those stories become public, Charlie Brownstein, I'm very disappointed on him. And then, man, the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund has a lot of cleanup that they've got to do. They do a lot of good in the business. I think everyone will agree with that. But unfortunately, I think these are my words, protecting Bronstein as they did for so long is going to be a tough thing. And they really need to look and prove that they are a different organization moving forward. So, Henry, I enjoyed Night Gallery, Outer Limits, as well as Twilight Zone. I agree with Outer Limits. Night Gallery was hit and miss. I think more miss than hit, but there are some very great Night Gallery episodes. And Serling was more of a host on that. He did write a couple. But, man, I would love to have Klaus Janson on the show, John. I appreciate you asking. So there you go. Mark Miller quote, he thinks comic book companies are going less titles, better product. I think that's an inevitability, frankly. And I'm all for that because, man, I'll tell you, I remember Matt Brady and I, when I was doing Word Balloon at Newsarama, and we would talk about, can you believe there's going to be 80 titles this month from whether it was DC or Marvel that month? Too much product, man. And I don't want to see anyone lose gigs, but by the same token, I do think that there are too many books out there, especially from the big two. And I do think that I think the pandemic itself and the loss of income is making both the big two, but also even other companies kind of be a little more conservative. And that's okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I would like to see more creators get the opportunities to be published. I think creator-owned comics is a step in that direction. And I think a lot of talented people are doing that. And I think that's terrific. So let's see, that green screen thing in the background looks like a portal is starting to open. Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah. That's, when I have the wallpaper of the Larry King background, the green dots and stuff, it's even more prominent. It shows up right next to usually the Batman print that I have up there on the wall. So I can appreciate that. That's very funny. Yeah. What else? Okay, have I answered everything else here? I would love to, like I said, I'd love to talk to Klaus Janson. Did I see first issue? First single issue of comics. When I was really, really little, I got a lot of comic books handed to me from older cousins, a lot of Archie comics back then. And I do remember some coverless Superman comics that were probably late 60s. The first comic I ever bought that I remember buying with my 50-cent allowance back when comics were only 20 cents, it was an issue of Superman. I don't remember the number on it, but he had a new secret identity. And he was Chris Delbart, the Wolf of Wall Street. And he had brown hair and a mustache. And when Brian was doing his Superman run, and he had Superman and Lois undercover, and Superman kinked up his hair, and he was called Chaz. And I'm like, dude, why isn't he Chris Delbart? And I send him the cover of the issue, and he's like, why didn't I know about this 6 months ago? I totally would have made him Chris Delbart. So, because I'm like, yeah, man, Superman continuity, you got to do that stuff. So, what else we got here, man? John totally came in late. Just want to let you know. Oh, thanks, man. Thanks, Leighton. Do you have Leighton Wagner? Do you have a podcast or something like that? If you do, I'm happy to do podcast. I do. Anytime someone asks if I'd be a guest on a podcast or a video cast or something, I'm totally for it. John, what titles did you enjoy when you were a kid, both DC and Marvel? Came to Marvel late. Well, at least because, like I said, my first reading comics were DC comics. I remember my first haircut, which I could use again. I went to Vince's barbershop, and I remember distinctly seeing Green Lantern comics, Flash comics, and Deadman comics. When I got into Marvel, it was the Treasury Edition comics, and my first ones. In fact, when we were talking about various artists and Kirby was, being talked about, the Fantastic Four Treasury Edition that retold the Silver Surfer story. That was one of my first Marvel comics. Also, there was an Avengers Treasury Edition that had the whole Yellow Jacket story when he married the Wasp, and it had the Vision story, the original Vision stories with Ultron, and even an android could cry, that great Roy Thomas story. So I remember those as very old stuff. But I was a massive, grew up on Batman, was probably 4 years old. Well, I was 2 when Batman premiered in '66. I don't know if I remember it that far back, but I did watch Batman, unless it was a Joker episode, and those scared the shit out of me. And I'm sure I told this story before, but I went to Los Angeles in 1982 for a vacation, and my stepmother was really close to a character actor, and he got us into a bunch of TV shows. And we saw a pilot being filmed that didn't make it to series, but it starred Ann Gillian and Cesar Romero. And we got there early enough that the cast came out and then met everybody and said, "Hey, thanks a lot for supporting the show. We really appreciate it." Fred Silverman, the great television executive, was the executive producer on the show. Take a sip of water for a second. So Ann Gillian shakes everybody's hands, lovely woman. Cesar Romero comes out, and I go, "I got to tell you, man." I was like 17 at the time, and I'm like, I used to get so scared. I could literally not watch when you were on Batman, that crazy laugh. And he said, "Good, I was supposed to scare you." They couldn't have been nicer. And sadly, I don't have the relationship with my stepmother that I did back when I was 17. I don't know if she still has the photos or not, but he did take a photo of me. So me and the Joker, man, it was pretty amazing. Cesar Romero, amazing. Also, Zorro was also, or he wasn't Zorro, he was a Cisco Kid. So there you go. Jimmy, my first ever comic, Amazing Spider-Man 360, first Carnage. Man, that makes me feel old. And an older cousin bought it for me for $10. And looking back, I could cry. Well, I can understand that, man. Marvel Treasuries were awesome. Yes, they were. DC Treasuries, too. Man, I loved the recreations of those original 40s comics. And you got Action 1, you got All-Star 3, all those great books from, Batman #1, Detective 27. And not only did it have the stories, but it had the ads and those horrible 2-page prose stories they used to throw in comic books. I'm burping from my water. They wrote those terrible 2-page stories to keep the postage, because then it would qualify as a magazine. So when they would send out, and subscriptions were still a big deal in comics, that's how they got a cheaper postage rate. I would love to see Neil Adams on the show. I've been trying to get Neil back on Word Balloon for at least 5 or 6 years. I see him at conventions, and he kind of nods, and it never happens. And all I can say is every time I see him at a show, I'm like, "I'd love to talk to you, man. I'd love to have another conversation." If I'm never gonna have another Neil Adams conversation, I had 3 good ones, so that's okay. What else? Yes, of course, Cesar Romero, makeup over his mustache. Absolutely, man. Come on. And I agree with John. They should stop recoloring those hardcover collections of the old stuff. Yeah, there's really no need. I don't mind them, like, if they're going to publish them, that if something bad happens, to fix it to look the way it did. But I would say keep the old coloring and stuff like that. So, oh, Jimmy, that's all right. Jimmy's like, "Hey, sorry I comment so much during streams." Hey, if it's a good comment, I don't mind popping it up. So that's cool. Yeah, there you go, guys. What else? Oh, man, let me really feel old, Red Gab. My first comic book was Batman from 2000. In fairness, that was 20 years ago, Red, so I can appreciate that. I was in my 30s 20 years ago, so what can I say? What else can I tell you guys? No Word Balloon Live tomorrow night. Friday, I'm going to pre-record a conversation with James Tucker, the great animator who's been producing so many wonderful movies for DC, but also great full series like Brave and Bold and the Legion series that is coming out on Blu-ray very shortly. I'm not sure what his status is. It's weird. I saw some new movies being announced, and he's not the supervising producer, so I'm not sure if his tenure as I always say, like, because I think of Bruce Timm this way, but like the supervising producer of all the movies and stuff. I get it. I don't know. So I don't know. We'll find out. But he asked, because he's not willing to come on camera and have hair like mine. And he's like, "Oh, can we just pre-record something?" I'm like, "Yes." He's like, "Can we just do audio?" I'm like, "Yeah." A few creators don't want to do video. That's cool. I'm cool. Word balloon is both. And honestly, guys, I hope those of you who do normally listen to the Word Balloon audio feed and stuff, I hope that the videos translate well enough. That's why I try to read the questions as they come up, along with you guys seeing them on screen and everything. So that's funny. Yes, I'd love to talk to Todd McFarlane. Absolutely, that'd be great too. So, hey man, I'll tell you what. I'll wrap things up now because we're at 2 hours. Thanks a lot, guys and girls. I appreciate everybody coming on. I thought we had a lot of great questions for the boys, and aren't they great? Seriously, they're three of my favorite people in comics. And it's been a pleasure to get to know them and so many other great creators. And it's been a pleasure to get to know you and include your questions and comments. I thank you very much for your time and attention, as always, here at Word Balloon. So we'll be talking to you with more great content to come before the week is over. We've already got some really fun stuff lined up next week. Can't wait to share with you here at Word Balloon. As always, in every episode, stay safe,